Good afternoon, and welcome to today's program entitled Back to School with IPM. This webinar is a great way to kick off the school year with a smart, sensible, and sustainable pest management program. This webinar is produced by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's Center of Expertise for School IPM. The views expressed by our presenters are for educational purposes only and do not represent the official views or positions of the EPA or the presenters' organizations. This webinar is part of a series of educational school IPM presentations intended to provide you with information on the importance of integrated pest management, or IPM, to the student health and the steps needed to establish an effective IPM program. This is Thomas Cook with the Center of Expertise for School IPM, and I have the pleasure of being your moderator for today's program. I would like to first thank you all for attending today's webinar. Now I am pleased to introduce our distinguished presenters. Our first presenter, Ms. Sherry Glick, with the EPA Center of Expertise for School IPM. Ms. Glick has been with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency for over 30 years and currently serves as the National Expert for School Integrated Pest Management in EPA's Office of Pesticide Programs at the Center of Expertise for School IPM in Dallas, Texas. Sherry is a graduate of Michigan State University and a devoted Spartan. During her career, she received the Al Gore Hammer Award for Government Reinvention, awarded for school IPM innovation at the International IPM Symposium, and recently nominated for the Samuel J. Hyman Service to America Medals, a highly respected honor with a rigorous selection process. Sherry played a key role in developing the Office of Pesticides program, Pesticide Risk Reduction Initiative in the early 90s, which led to the creation of the Pesticide Environmental Stewardship Program and the School Integrated Pest Management Initiative. Sherry and her husband, Dale, are urban residents of Dallas. Our second presenter, Dr. John Bailey, the Director of School Plants, Chesapeake, Virginia Public Schools. Dr. Bailey has been involved in the educational field for over 24 years. He has school-level experience as a teacher, assistant principal, and principal, as well as central office experience as a director. For the past 4 years, he has served as the Director of School Plants for Chesapeake, Virginia Public Schools, the state's sixth largest school district with nearly 40,000 students. Dr. Bailey has been heavily involved in the state and national school plant management associations. He is currently the Region 2 board member for the Virginia School Plant Management Association and is immediate past president of the National School Plant Management Association. He shares the philosophy that school buildings variables have a strong influence on student learning, behavior, and attitude. And finally, our last presenter, Mr. Mervyn Brewer, with Assistant Custodial Supervisor at the Salt Lake City, Utah School District. Mr. Brewer is the Assistant Custodial Supervisor for the Salt Lake City School District. He has 26 years of experience as a school custodian, including being head custodian of an elementary and high school. Since 2005, he has served as a district-level supervisor. Mr. Brewer, a state-certified pesticide applicator, has been involved in the district's internationally recognized IPM program since its inception 11 years ago. He is a member of the Green Clean Schools Leadership Council and past president of the Utah School Custodial Managers Association, a champion of greening efforts. He developed a district-wide program that recycles 45 tons of paper annually. Thank you to all the presenters. And with that, I would like to turn over the presentation to Ms. Sherry Glick. Sherry, take it away.
Thank you, Thomas, for kicking off the webinar and making the introductions for us. I'm really glad and honored to be part of this webinar and to have the opportunity to talk about two of the key personnel in a school district who have specific roles in jump-starting their IPM program at the beginning of the school year. So, what is IPM? EPA's Center of Expertise webinar series has sponsored several webinars that have focused on the nuts and bolts of integrated pest management and how to implement a program in your school. In contrast, this webinar will focus on the back-to-school action items needed for a successful IPM program. If you want to learn more about IPM, we recommend that you visit our website to access some of the past webinars to gain more of an understanding of the principals and key suggestions on how to get your IPM program up and running. Here are some of the basics of IPM for this webinar. IPM is science-based approach to pest management that controls pests proactively. IPM is pollution prevention based, and by implementing an IPM program, it means that you're reducing the unnecessary use and exposure of pesticides in a learning environment. As Tom mentioned earlier, IPM is smart, sensible, and sustainable to pest control. IPM is smart because it creates a healthier learning environment. IPM is sensible because it utilizes practical strategies to reduce food, water, and shelter for pests. Finally, IPM is sustainable because it emphasizes prevention from the start. Today's webinar will focus on the prominent team players in the successful IPM program. The 4 key personnel identified in this webinar includes the school district's school administrator or principal, the district's facility manager, who is often the IPM coordinator, lead custodian for the district, and last but certainly not least, the school nurse. It also bears mentioning that these 4 personnel do not make a school IPM program successful on their own. It takes an entire team of personnel engaged, trained, and committed to make an IPM program work and keep it sustainable for this year and every year. Before I hand over the baton to our 2 guest speakers, I'm going to discuss the key roles of the school district school administrator and the school nurse in an IPM program. The school administrator is not only a manager, but a leader who takes pride in their school district and ensures that schools, teachers, counselors, and all other staff are collaborating towards a common goal of creating the best learning environment where education thrives. School administrators play a critical role in shaping curriculums, forming goals, setting budgets, maintaining timelines, following state regulations, and reporting on accomplishments that ensure both the students and staff are learning and working at optimum performance levels. Together, the school administrator, faculty, and key facility staff, including an IPM coordinator and the other personnel we discussed today, carve a path to success for everyone in the school district. One of the most important considerations a school administrator has is to ensure their students and staff work in a safe and healthy learning environment. Moreover, the physical school structure and surroundings must be conducive to a healthy learning environment where children can excel without the threats of asthma-causing pests such as cockroaches and rodents, and even the occasional invaders. The school administrator needs to ensure that students and staff are avoiding unnecessary exposure to pesticides, and the best way to attain this is through implementing an integrated pest management program, which is based on sound science. After all, like I said earlier, IPM is smart, sensible, and sustainable. How can the school administrator make this happen? In short, it's through leadership and commitment. First of all, the EPA recommends that all school districts implement an IPM policy that commits to a long-term, sustainable approach to pest management while addressing the public health pest and the best and safest possible use of pesticides for mitigating pests and their impacts on children's health. The EPA model IPM policy is on your Adobe connection for download, found at the bottom left of your screen. You can also access it on our website. By committing to and publishing a policy, the school administrator establishes a long-lasting pledge to the district, the staff, parents, and others that they are promoting a healthy environment where IPM is the science-based method used for pest control in their school district. The IPM guidance policy addresses not only the safety concerns when using pesticides, but also focuses on solution-based approaches to pest problems in the school environment. This is a proactive rather than a reactive approach. As a result, the guidance provides the school district and its individual school campuses a sustainable and long-term pest management alternative to traditional calendar-based pesticide-only approaches. The school administrator should draw attention to the school IPM policy and plan at the beginning of the year, sharing it with parents and faculty. They should highlight the guidance as part of their long-standing commitment for a healthy school environment that reduces pests and the unnecessary exposure to pesticides. I personally recommend that they have an entire section of the district's website committed to IPM, where the policy, plan, and educational documents are placed for reading by interested parents and school staff. Another key activity to maintain a healthy school environment and to also ensure that the district's IPM policy is being maintained, sustained, and adhered to is to create a health and safety or an IPM committee. If there has already been an IPM committee formed, then the school administrator can send out the first invite of the year and be there to support the entire team at the beginning of the school year. Usually the IPM committee is led by the facility management director or the IPM coordinator. The school administrator should be at the first meeting of the school year to set the tone and to express their commitment and support for IPM within the district. A good, successful administrator will ensure that an IPM committee is formed to get things done and support the goals and outcomes of the IPM policy. The IPM committee is also where much of the education and training comes from for the staff and students in the district. This committee should have representatives from facilities management, including staff who either manage the pest management contract for the district or are responsible for pest management in-house. The IPM coordinator, as I said earlier, is usually the lead and is key to the ongoing functioning of the group and is directly supported by the school administrator. Other key participants of the committee include the school nurse, lead custodial, and their staff and teachers. Several school districts also invite parents to these meetings, which is a good way to include involvement at the parental level throughout the year. The IPM committee should meet monthly. School administrators set the tone and framework for the district's IPM program. Their commitment or lack thereof will often gauge the success of sustaining the district's program. Successful districts often gain visibility from their programs and are asked to speak and mentor other districts interested in developing and implementing their IPM programs. This can be a rewarding opportunity for the IPM leadership within the district. I'm sure that our future speaker, Merv Brewer, will talk about all the opportunities that he and the district have had with EPA and other school districts interested in implementing the program. Next, let's focus on the school nurse. Over the last few years, EPA's Center of Expertise has worked with the National Association of School Nurses in assisting them with educational publications that promote healthy schools and integrated pest management. For some of their excellent publications on back-to-school guidance, I would refer you to their website at nasn.org. To access the National Association of School Nurses back-to-school checklist, you can also download it from the bottom left of your Adobe Connect screen. The school nurse is important for the success of a school IPM program for a multitude of reasons. There are new kids coming into the district at the beginning of the school year that may have asthma. They may suffer from allergies and could even be anaphylactic to stinging insects. The school nurse must understand and monitor the influx of these special populations. In addition, the school nurse will need to communicate these issues with pertinent staff at the school to ensure that everyone is aware and knows what to do should an event happen. The possibility of lice being found at the school is very likely, and school nurses should be prepared when this happens. Usually, a letter is sent out to parents at the beginning of the school year with some proactive guidance, including the recommendation that parents check their child's hair every week, even if they haven't received the school district's form letter on recent lice findings. The communication to parents should include some basic knowledge on how to identify lice, the reproductive cycle, and suggested treatment plans for this pest. Also, parents should be reminded to encourage their child to avoid sharing personal items such as combs, brushes, hats, coats, scarves, hair ties, and bandanas. School nurses, teachers, and others may want to suggest that students zip their coat or sweater into their own backpack when not being worn. This could be a good preventative practice for lice and for bed bugs. Along with the lice information that the school nurse distributes to the parents at the beginning of the school year, they will also want to share the district's bed bug action plan. In brief, an action plan for bed bugs includes guidance on identifying a bed bug and the signs of bed bugs being in the classroom and on a child's belongings. The identification of the pest could include the actual bed bug, cast skins, or excessive insect bites on the child. The action plan should also describe the difference between an introduction of that bed bug and an actual infestation in the classroom. Make sure the school IPM plan has an emphasis on monitoring for bed bugs first. Don't overreact. A sighting doesn't mean that there's an infestation. Also, don't stigmatize or exclude the student you suspect brought the bed bugs to school. EPA has an excellent fact sheet titled Bed Bugs in Schools, Guidance for Administrators, Teachers, and Staff, and it's available as a download on our EPA School IPM website. We have also produced webinars specifically on bed bugs and on lice. I recommend you check our website for those recorded webinars. The school nurse has the opportunity and obligation to educate and promote the right conditions for a healthy school environment. If the school nurse is not part of the IPM committee, then they should work with their administration to form a team. If the correlation between pests and asthma hasn't been made by the facilities manager, the school nurse should do so and communicate this to her administration and other faculty members. There are excellent publications on the health case for asthma and IPM on our website. The school nurse plays a critical role in a healthy school environment. A good school IPM program always utilizes the school nurse in educating staff and parents about pest, asthma, and healthy learning environments. Every school needs a school nurse.
Thank you, Sherry. Next, we'll hear from Dr. Bailey. Dr. Bailey, please take it away.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Very excited to speak with you more about a school-based participation when we talk about integrated pest management. Being a former high school principal and now a director and overseeing school plants, and actually being able to talk to my cohorts across the country in regards to school plant management, IPM is a concerted effort that we all need to focus on in our schools. The first piece we really need to think about is how we're going to implement an IPM policy or plan. I'm fortunate here in Chesapeake that we have a formalized policy in place, so all of our schools, all 47 of them, are on the same page. We're all focused on what we're going to do, and our teams are set up in our schools. But you have to look at your current situation in your school division. Do you have a policy or plan in place? And if so, it's time to start getting ready for the new school year. Some of you, depending where you're at across the country, may have already started. Here in Virginia, we do not start until after Labor Day. So how are we going to get this going? How are we going to get the communication pieces going? Many tools you can use. The website is a great opportunity to promote your IPM policy, where all of the stakeholders, your parents, your teachers, people in the community can find that policy. When it comes to school-based communication, notifying your staff either through a faculty meeting, a mailer, is a great way to communicate with them. And then your parents also need to be communicated, as well, and that can be done through your web page and also other formal means. Could be a mailer as well. Now, IPM committees, these are recommended for all of our schools here in Virginia and in Chesapeake. We have specialized teams. It's very good to get stakeholder input for the issues at our schools, and then talk about how we can make things better, how we develop our plans, and how we move things forward. Having that initial meeting at the beginning of the school year is essential, because you basically set the tone for the school year, how you're going to communicate, how you're going to problem solve issues, not only at the building level, but with your custodial services, also with plant maintenance. I've listed a few team members, and Sherry and I wholeheartedly agree on who should be on teams. School administration is essential, absolutely the school nurse, your custodians, maintenance staff, which includes my staff here, and teachers and parents. So you do want to have that holistic approach to your stakeholders, and here by using this format for teams, you really include everybody. And again, it's just good communication. Everybody's on the same page. Now, our purpose of the IPM, our health and safety team. What is our purpose throughout the year? What are we trying to accomplish? And really, we want to have these periodic inspections and team meetings for several reasons. Number one, to make sure our school buildings are sanitary and clean, to make sure the exclusion piece is there, that we have consistent monitoring and upkeep of maintenance. You may have a roach issue, a rodent issue, and it's how we effectively communicate with each other. Are there issues with building maintenance where our school door weeps are needing to be replaced, or if there's penetrations in parts of the building where there are gaps and seams and things like that? Those are all important things where the school would then communicate with school plant management to fix these things. Custodians are essential, especially with the heavy cleaning and things that they do. They know their buildings inside and out, so they can also report to their administration. So everybody has to be on the same page with the inspections, with the team meetings, and then how we're going to troubleshoot and problem solve when we have issues in the building. Now, I'm very fortunate here in Chesapeake, Virginia, where I have two very highly qualified pest management technicians that are very fluent in IPM principles. That may not be the case in your school division or the schools where you're at. So if you do use an outside vendor for pest management, there's a few things you want to make sure of. Confirming the vendor is compliant with IPM best practices, how they will monitor and complete inspections, how they will document their findings, And it's always good to have a face-to-face meeting with your vendor that you want to see the forms they're using to document their treatment procedures, if they're using traps, baits, or whatever methods they're using. And it's good just to have that face-to-face just for the communication piece, so we're all on the same page. Now, make an IPM a division-wide team effort. And like I said, my school division here in Virginia does that. We have a formal policy. You've got to make sure your practices are efficient. And when everybody's on board and the communication with all the stakeholders is there, this can be very, very effective. Number one, to make sure nuisances are taken care of immediately. There's a plan once they are identified for treatment and for preventative maintenance and things like that. But you also have to look at a few other things, about your cost and your expenses, how you can calculate your savings. I'm fortunate here in my school division where I have my warehouse right on my large school plant here. So I'm able to communicate with those folks and run my budget to see what I'm using, what I'm purchasing, working with my pest management technicians to make sure that we're all on the same page with costs and expenses. Because I don't know about all of you across the country, but I know here in Virginia we're still facing some very, very tough budget times. So every penny counts. Educating key staff members. Number one, your teachers. They have to understand how IPM works, what the expectations are in schools, how they're going to be communicated to, what they should do if they have a problem in the classrooms. Your school nurse, how they're going to handle, as Sherry said earlier, lice, bed bugs. What are your procedures going to be to possibly treat a classroom or classrooms where a bed bug or bed bugs have been identified? All that needs to be laid out and communicated with all the stakeholders in the schools. It's really good to have that in-service training for your staff members on your IPM practices so they know, okay, well, this is what's going to happen if the nurse detects lice, or if we have a rodent problem in the building, or if we have bed bugs. This is how we're going to handle things. This is how we're going to communicate to the community, to the stakeholders, and you have a plan. The rewards will be a healthy environment in your school for all stakeholders. And number one, the main thing is the communication. There's no misunderstandings of, well, what should I do here? What should I tell the parents? What should I tell the students? If you have a formalized plan, all that's going to be identified, and in your professional development and in-service training, you're going to cover all those things with your staff. Now, IPM inventory is very important. Some school divisions have site-based IPM inventory where it's kept there at the schools. Again, here where I'm at, I have a large warehouse where I manage all of my stuff, where my pest technicians will go over and check things out from our overall stock and inventory through our supply house and warehouse, which is very effective for us. If you don't have that, there has to be a plan of how you're going to handle that in your site-based areas, be it through the principal as the building manager or your custodial services or things like that. Another question, are your IPM materials based on work orders or planned preventative treatment, maintenance? Here we have a work order system that's tied directly to our pest technicians. So our principals, custodians, whoever the designee is in that school, they know they can put the work order in, they can tie it to the direct issue, be it roaches, mice droppings, whatever it may be, and then our pest technicians can communicate with the schools, develop the plans they're going to come in for treatment, communicate that with the schools, get their materials and supplies, and put that into action. Just remember, responsibly dispose of your materials based on usage and document on a data sheet that can be tracked and monitored over time. Here in my school division, we have our own personalized documentation that's IPM friendly, that we document everything and we file and electronically store our history of each school through pest management. So we can go back to say, okay, well, these are the treatments we have done. Has it been effective? What is our preventative maintenance going to be in the future for whatever our nuisance was in that school? But it's very important to document your information. There's nothing better to show the community or a parent, if you're ever questioned, to say, well, what have you done about the situation? And you have your documentation there. It's very easy to say, okay, we've done A, B, and C, and we're moving forward to continue to make sure the problems are addressed in the schools. And hopefully your pest technicians or your external contractor will take care of that for you. Now, start the school year off with an IPM inventory update and with a clean storage area, meaning making sure you're organized and keeping your stuff controlled. You know, like I said, with tough budget times, my guys have to document on, you know, not only their data sheet, but truck logs and things like that, where they're at, where they're going to be, how they're handling their materials. So all I have to do is, if I need to, I can call my guys up, get on the computer, and we can go through a school and say A, B, and C is done, and I have a clear understanding and a documented understanding of a treatment history or, you know, preventative type things in all of my schools and support buildings, which it makes my life so much easier, especially when you're questioned by possibly central office, school board members, etc., on what are you doing to handle this. Now, IPM is such an instrumental thing, and you know, you're going to hear more. You've heard from Sherry, and I'll echo that IPM it's really promoting and maintaining a positive environment in schools, and it should be done nationwide. There's no doubt about it, because there's really no better investment than in our children, and we all have to take the ownership in maintaining a safe and healthy environment for the kids, for the teachers, and because you know what? They do deserve the best facility to learn and play in. We have high expectations for learning, student behavior, you know, their attitude toward the school building, and some of the things that we can affect, we need to take responsibility for that, and having an IPM program supports this. So I appreciate your attention, and if we have questions at the end, we can answer them towards the last part of the last presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bailey. Next, we'll hear from Mr. Brewer. Mr. Brewer, please take it away.
All right, well, hopefully you can all hear me okay. I'm Merv Brewer, the Assistant Custodial Supervisor with the Salt Lake City School District. One of them, I should say, one of two. We've been doing IPM here for over a decade in our school district. And our school district is about 25,000 students, very ethnically diverse, as you can see. We have a lot of Title I schools in our district. We have 43 facilities that we deal with a total of over 4 million square feet. And there's about 4,200 employees, including administrators, teachers, and support staff in the Salt Lake City School District. So we put this on all of our IPM slides, the IPM pyramid that we feel is very important. The key part of IPM is education and communication. It used to be that pesticides, you sprayed everything, right? So you saw a bug, you just sprayed it. So now the key to anything we do with IPM is education and communication. So looking at priorities, for a custodian, educate and communicate. It's paramount to what you do. You need to educate with staff in your schools, your IPM practices, and the culture that you have. And that means new teachers coming in. That means new support staff that's coming in. And even the teachers who've been there before, it's always nice to have a refresher when they get back. I want our custodians to think about this, that we have math teaching professionals, we have kindergarten teaching professionals, we have science teaching professionals. We want our custodians to be the educational professional of pest management in their building. That's the concept we try to teach our people. So along the lines of education still, educating your faculty in the proper reporting system that you have in your school. Some of you use a paper reporting system. Some of you use an online reporting system. Whatever that is, everybody in the school needs to be on board with how you report pests within your building. And also, they need to be educated on what the thresholds are in your building. In our particular system, we have an online reporting system, but we've made it very clear this isn't a bug reporting system. You don't report every bug that you see, because that's not what it's about. It's about pests. It's about those things that can become a problem or can become a nuisance. And so educating them on what thresholds are, those people in your building, it's very, very important. So train and retrain the custodial staff. In a high school where you have a larger staff, it's very important with all of the turnover you have to constantly train the custodians that are under the head custodian. In an elementary school where there's not quite as big of a custodial staff, it's still important, whether you have turnover or not, to have a training with them to constantly remind them on what the goals are with IPM within your building. In the Salt Lake School District, we have a quarterly update training for all of our custodians, head custodians, full-time custodians. Everybody is covered in a quarterly manner with an update, whether it be something redundant or something new. And it's important for custodians to realize that the maintenance people, the child nutrition people, and the grounds people that come into your area, that come into your building, also need to be brought up to date on what your IPM practices are. Most school districts, all of that's handled in-house, but in some school districts it's not. So it's very important as the site coordinator, which is what our head custodians are, for them to train those people that, or at least touch base with those people that come into their buildings. Okay, so we're going to move on the pyramid here to the cultural and sanitation practices part of IPM. And this is still has to do some with education. We need to educate our educators to keep out clutter. Now you see in this picture here, this was one of my favorite places in the entire district because it's where I used to hide from my boss. The problem was, eventually, all the mice that were in there, well, they were causing me some issues, and so I could no longer hide there. My boss came in, found it, and says, hey, we have got to clear this out. So the biggest rodent left, which was me, but then the other rodents also left once we got all of this stuff put away. The point of the matter is, if we do not educate our educators and allow for clutter to happen in our buildings, we're going to continually have pest issues, particularly by giving them a home and shelter and food for them to thrive. Another bad thing that we found in schools, overstuffed couches, chairs, things like that, well, they're really bad. As you can see, they are the perfect environment. They give food, they give shelter, they give money. Well, that's to me. But the nice thing about the couches are nothing, absolutely nothing, because all they are is a place to vector different types of pests. It's very important to educate people in your building to remove that kind of clutter and keep that kind of clutter out. And as you can see by the picture here, we educated one of our high schools on the pest problems. Well, they got a dumpster over there, and we removed these items from the building. Okay, back to sanitation here. Keeping clean dumpsters. It's important to power wash them as needed or change them out. We have a contract with our trash hauler that they will change them out when they get dirty. Another part of waste stream management is having good quality trash liners so that you're not leaking that milk and gross stuff into the dumpster to begin with. So we use very high quality trash liners as part of our IPM program. Again, lockers, desks, and other storage areas should have no food left in them overnight, and it's important to educate our educators along these lines. Recently, we had a building where there were fruit flies, but there was no reason we should have had fruit flies until we noticed that there were lockers about 30 or 40 yards away from these offices where we had fruit flies. Come to find out, there was an old banana left in one of the lockers, and that's why we had the problem. Good quality trash liners in offices and classrooms will help avoid leakage, and again, it's a good IPM practice. And avoid aluminum can collecting. I know that it's something that they like to do in schools, but if they are collected, they should be removed daily from the building as to avoid attracting pests. Start the year with clean drains. During the summertime in Salt Lake School District, our custodians go through the kitchen areas and they clean these sinks out on the floor so that they can get rid of possible things that will cause pest issues like drain flies and cockroaches. We'll use a drain brush down through here. But keep in mind that it's very important to do this kind of an activity when there is no food preparation going on. Some people have year-round school, and so it's very important to do this when there's no food out, when you have, say, a long weekend or some time when you're not preparing food, because you don't want to take the chance of having any contamination get airborne and into the food. Next slide. There we go. We need to educate the cleaning staff and the kitchen staff to keep clean mops and buckets after use, and to store mops and brushes upside down, up off the floor, possibly in a rack, so that you will not attract pests and you will not feed them. And then, as was mentioned earlier about holding inspections, it's important for custodians to conduct inspections and assessments for entry points around their building and either turn in work orders or deal with those issues as they have been trained to do. This is part of the physical and mechanical control of the IPM pyramid. This is the key component in keeping them out, not just what we've done prior to this, which is educate people on not attracting them. This is the actual, let's seal up the building so we can keep these things out of here. An ongoing involvement. It's important for the custodian to be a key participant in IPM committee meetings, as was said earlier. It's important for custodians to continue their own education. We promote that in the Salt Lake City School District. We have had custodians that when they run into an issue that they are not familiar with, they will actually Google IPM practice for dealing with, let's say, paper wasp. And they will get answers from places that on how to deal with those sorts of things. So our custodial professionals are becoming more knowledgeable on their own. And I think it's a very key thing for that custodian to be the educational professional over pest management in their building. And finally, we're all in this together. As it was said earlier, it's very important that we look at this as a team effort, because integrated pest management is a team effort. It's important that everybody has some sort of a role, they understand what that is, and they all work together for that common good. Here in Utah, we have the Utah Custodial Managers Association, a group of custodial leaders like myself from different school districts. We work together amongst districts to push integrated pest management forward in the state of Utah. Currently, there are 5 school districts that have an integrated pest management plan that is already in place and implemented in their school districts, with more coming online soon. And I think, for me, that is the end.
Thank you, Mervyn. Here are the upcoming webinars for this school year. All are at 2 p.m. Eastern. We hope you can join us, so save the dates. For more information and to sign up, please visit our website. As an attendee of today's webinar, you can download a certificate of attendance. For some of you, these certificates will provide supportive documentation for continuing education credits. You will be sent a link a few hours after the webinar to print your own certificate. The School IPM Listserv is our latest way to assist and motivate those in the school community to start, grow, and sustain their IPM programs. By subscribing, you will receive invitations to upcoming webinars, highlights from and links to IPM-related newsletters, updates on EPA school IPM activities, along with other pertinent announcements. To sign up for our listserv, go to our website, or you can email us at school.ipm@epa.gov. Thank you again to all our great presenters. Dr. John Bailey from the Chesapeake, Virginia Public Schools, Mervyn Brewer from Salt Lake City, Utah School District, and Sherry Glick with the EPA Center of Expertise for School IPM. In time, a list of all question and answers will be provided on our website, along with a set of resource links, a PDF of the slides, and a recording of the presentation. Now we will entertain your questions. We'll begin with questions posed during the webinar. Feel free to add any more questions through the question pod now. For answers to questions not addressed during this 20-minute session will be placed on our website. Without further ado, the first question is, this question is going to be posed to Dr. Bailey, for you first. As an administrator, was it hard to get buy-in from the frontline staff, custodians, kitchen helpers, etc., when you implemented IPM?
No, it wasn't hard. We actually have had an IPM policy in place for several years here. So I've only been with the school division, just about 4 years, going on my 5th year now. So it's been kind of like a common practice. So no, it hasn't been difficult, because I think the bottom line is we're all trying to do the best we can to maintain our school buildings properly. So you always have difficult folks, though. You may have a difficult teacher or a parent, but that's far and few in between. But we always handle them professionally. The communication piece is the essential part of it. We make everything available, make your policy available, and how we're going to handle things, and it usually works pretty well.
Thank you, sir. Next question. This is for you, Mr. Brewer. Can you suggest strategies to convince teachers to get rid of their clutter in the classroom?
Well, yes. As a matter of fact, there's a couple of strategies we use that are kind of fun and effective. One is we like to take a black light, a portable black light, and do a demonstration for them with things like these couches. Show them where under this ultraviolet light the mice are peeing, and that tends to get their attention pretty quick. We also have a presentation board that is set on a top of a desk that shows the same type of thing. It's very, I want to say, graphic in nature, because it shows where the mice are doing their business. And that kind of gets people's attention. When they see that their coffee cup has little yellow dots in it, they tend to think, okay, maybe I need to do something to remediate this issue. So we found that works very, very good. But there are still people that will just not get the message with the clutter. And sometimes that's where we have to go to the administration and let the administration in the building know that this is a real problem and it is a health issue. And again, we've not had any problems that we have not been able to deal with in those scenarios there. So,
thank you, sir. Next question. This question's for you, Sherry.
Sure.
Can you suggest good online resources for the IPM coordinator?
I think that there are a few. EPA, of course, on our website, we have a number of documents that will really help, I think, the IPM coordinator understand their role better. One of which I talked about earlier is the EPA IPM policy and plan. The model one that's out there, it's excellent. I really recommend you use that. There's also a training course that EPA has funded through a cooperative agreement with the University of Arizona, and it's called Stop School Pest. And if you go out and you Google Stop School Pest, you're going to get that long URL. It's going to take you to training. And there's some excellent modules out there for the IPM coordinator. And last but not least, there's also some good guidance document out of the School IPM 2020 plan for the IPM coordinator. Those three, I think, would be helpful for any coordinator.
Thank you, Sherry.
Mhm.
Next question. This is for you, Dr. Bailey. Have you found in tight budget times that IPM saves money?
Yes, I believe it does save money. And before coming to Chesapeake, I worked at another school division here in Virginia that contracted services out and still used IPM services. But I find that having my own internal pest technicians and our methods that we use are very effective, number one, and cost efficient. Folks on the outside that have external contractors, they're running a business that is made to make money. When you have your own internal controls and your staff, they're under the philosophy of wanting to provide the customer service generally for the schools and the kids, and so they may not add on some of the other things that a contractor may add on that they find or want to do. They're going to get in there, they're going to get to the root of the problem, they're going to solve it. So yes, not only on our cost for our services for technicians, but also on some of the materials and supplies that we use with baits and traps and things like that.
Thanks, sir. Let's see. Let me pull this question. Dr. Bailey, I guess this is in the same sort of lane where you just touched on, but if you could, maybe elaborate just a tad bit more. As an administrator, what are the best benefits you've noticed since implementing IPM?
I think environmentally in the schools, I mean, that is one of the main things. You're really promoting and providing a truly healthy environment with all the medical conditions of kids. Can you imagine if we just open things up for teachers and everybody else in the building to spray their own chemicals, to elicit things that we know that could possibly trigger asthma and other health effects for children? Just that alone is a major, major improvement compared to not having an IPM plan. So the environmental health and safety of the kids and the staff and the schools is instrumental. I also think the second part of that is definitely the cost savings. And the third part is just having consistent communication and having that plan where all your stakeholders know, are on the same page. Not saying everything is going to be perfect all the time in all of your schools, but you have a plan that is readily available, that is going to implement safe health practices in your school buildings.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we have one more question. I'll pose this to Mr. Brewer. Does anyone know of any non-pesticide, low-impact ways to rid the property and concrete of weeds and invasive plants versus using impact chemicals and sending notices home?
Now, it depends on where the weeds are, of course. Quite often, the best way that we handle it is through mechanical control. Weed whips, pulling the weeds, things such as that. That's really, as far as a green way to do it, that's really the greenest. And I realize that's very difficult in a lot of places because of the fact that they just don't have the budget to hire enough people to do those sorts of things or to have the equipment to do those sorts of things. But it is something that is probably the best way to deal with weeds.
Thanks, sir. Next question, I'll pose this to Dr. Bailey. What are some of the best resources or clearinghouse for schools that do not have IPM plans and are interested in getting started?
Well, I think the EPA is a great resource. I was fortunate enough several weeks ago to go to Washington with stakeholders from across the country just to talk about an integrated pest management plan across the country for our schools. So there are a lot of resources. I think the EPA, I think Sherry is probably a very, very good resource. A lot of things that happen in Texas, I truly believe Texas is really ahead of the game, especially compared to us here in Virginia. Even though I think we do a very good job in my school division, but I think Texas is right on top of it. Your localities, where you are within your EPA, will have information in regards to IPM and things like that. But I think the EPA is a very, very good resource. That's what I've been going through to get information as I've been the director here. So I think the EPA is a very good resource.
Thank you, John. We appreciate the pat on the back. You know, we definitely agree. Sherry and others here within the center are well knowledged. So appreciate that. Thank you. At this time, we don't have any other questions, so we're going to go ahead and wrap the Q&A session up. So this concludes our webinar on Back to School with IPM. Thanks again for attending, and we hope you tune in next month for our next School IPM webinar. Please be sure to register. It's going to be a very exciting webinar dealing with mosquitoes and potentially how Zika can affect it. So thank you very much. Everybody have a great day.